All right. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Emily Dixon. I'm the program director for Arts for All Florida. I'm so excited to have you all here for our Career in Arts webinar series. We are super excited for this extra special one with two amazing and fabulous musicians and artists that we're going to learn about. Before we get started, I just want to share that Arts for All Florida is a nonprofit arts organization. We provide the state and champion in arts education for people with disabilities and beyond. So we're so excited that you're here. We'll talk a little bit more later at the end about Arts for All, but really this is about Scott and James. So just some housekeeping. You do not need to have your camera on. If you want to have it on, you're welcome to, but please stay muted throughout until we do the questions. As we are listening and I'll be asking them questions, if you have questions and you want to put them in the chat box, please feel free to do that. I'll be kind of watching that, and if it's kind of appropriate time to ask it in the middle, I will, or we'll wait till the end. The end, we will have question and answer, so you'll be able to unmute and talk to them. Like I said, this is recorded, so we are going to put this on our YouTube channel, so we'll be able to reference it later. And if it helps for anyone, please be sure to turn on the captions, which should be on the bottom of your Zoom screen, and any other things that you might need. Again, my name is Emily Dixon. I'm listed as the host. You can send me a private message, and I'll be able to hopefully help you along with that. And we are here for you. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and let Scott and James introduce themselves. We'll start with James and then we'll hop to Scott. So you're on, James.
All right. I was born on. My name is James Durbin. I am newly 37 years old. I live in Santa Cruz, California, which I'm born and raised in. I am by definition, a singer, first and foremost, a songwriter, a voiceover actor. I have voiceover credits with Disney for Frozen and Star Wars, and Amazon, and Jingle All the Way for the Funko Turbo Man doll. I'm now the voice of the dad and the grandpa on Cocomelon Lane, if anybody likes Cocomelon. Yeah, Cocomelon. And then I've been singing professionally since 2011, 15 years ago, celebrating my American Idol 15-year anniversary. And I love that I just get to live out the dream that I set up for myself when I was a kid, thinking that no dreams were possible with my circumstances. And am living proof today to myself and my wife and my kids and all of my fans around the world that you can do what you want to do. It just might take a few extra steps or, something completely different than you thought was possible, but it is possible.
Awesome. Thanks, James. All right,
Love it.
Scott.
I'm Scott MacIntyre, and this is an American Idol Zoom, isn't it? It's great.
Hallelujah.
So you said season 11, James.
Season
I'm
10.
trying to season 10. Okay, so just 1 year away from me. Yeah, or 2 years. Yeah, I was on season 8. So I guess that means I'm celebrating shortly here my 27th. I mean 17th. No, don't jump that far ahead. 17th. Yeah, American Idol anniversary. But yeah, I was on in 2009. Um, and I remember meeting you at, somewhere along the way. I used to try to come back and encourage and meet the new, contestants and stuff. Had a lot of fun with that. So loved watching your season. Um, Obviously, and some good, great stuff there. I music for me has it's kind of morphed over the last 15, 16, 17 years from being something originally very, very artful, even before American Idol, something very artful and like, I wanted to be the next John Mayer kind of a thing, to being very purposeful. And so I still love the art form, and I've gotten to live a lot of my dreams. My wife and I produced some television over the years and different things. A lot of music between then and now. I did a lot of speaking over the years, different things. But I think like every year that goes by, I just try to find ways to use it more for the good of the people that God puts in my path. So it's almost like being a musical missionary in a sense, and found some really creative ways, and with the help of others, to do things that I never thought I'd be doing. So I am grateful for that American Idol platform, just kicking it all off for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you for those introductions. So we'll go ahead and get into some questions. The first one we're going to start with is what is your role as a musician artist today, and what does your work involve on a daily or a typical basis? So let's start with James.
Hi again. So my work mostly, I'd say similarly to Scott's. You set off to do one thing, and then over the course of, there's only so many people that can take the top, you know, 2% of artists. There's like the 1%. There's a few percentages, and it's vastly differing compared to which one you're in. And I don't know if I'm in any of them, but it kind of turns into how can I sustain this quote unquote this dream? Can I sustain this as a quote unquote career? Or do I have to find ways to get creative with it? Most of us really have to find ways to get creative with it. And music starts off as this thing that you just really, really love. And you're like, how can I do this for the rest of my life? And then it happens, and then you're like, oh no, how can I love this for the rest of my life and still find a way to make a living and enjoy it at the same time? So a lot of what I do nowadays is I play in a bunch of different cover and tribute bands, and I'm in one that's all 80s called Tainted Love. I'm in one that's all yacht rock, mostly 70s smooth rock, soft rock, that's called Mustache Harbor. I'm in another one that's called Metal Mouse, that is the world's number one, the only one there has ever been, as far as I know. The world's first and only hard rocking tribute to the music of Disney, which is very apropos. And we finally got someone from Disney to come to our show, which was great. And hopefully, we'll be playing D23 this year, and maybe next year if it goes well. We'll see out in Florida. But so, and then I have my own band, James Durbin and the Lost Boys. I still write original music, and I'm getting ready to put out my fifth fifth solo album. I've done a bunch of albums with a bunch of different bands. I'm kind of a singer for hire and voiceover work. So any day could be recording or mixing right here in my studio, or doing voiceover work right here in my studio, songwriting. I also, with the help of my wife, put together all of our videos for social media. Our music videos. I edit my own music videos. Um, you kind of have to do everything these days. If you're an independent musician, it's kind of on you to present yourself in the way that you want to present yourself. So there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things. Some days it's nothing at all. Some days it's I'm also a dad to three amazing kids and a husband to an incredible wife. So I have to do dishes and load the dishwasher and fold laundry and clean my clothes and stuff like that too. Get kids to school on time, make lunches, all those things. So life.
Yeah, kudos to you.
Thank you.
That's awesome. How old are your kids now, James?
16, 11, and 4.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm just like taking a moment and processing that. It's yeah,
It's a
wide span and lots of life going on. That's so cool.
yeah, a lot of screaming from me.
Well, okay, just I don't want to forget to mention this, but was it you that um Hulk Hogan surprised on stage at
Yeah,
American Idol? Yeah. I was so
yeah.
happy watching that. It was like you know, because I'm a closet, wrestling fan.
Oh,
I probably
awesome.
haven't watched it in like 20 years, but I was so glad they did that. I mean, seeing Ryan Seacrest thrown into the audience, it doesn't get any better than that, right?
So Hogan he kind of gently tossed a working
Yeah.
man's toss, Ryan Seacrest into the audience. It was all of the bodyguards in the front row, and Steven Tyler, who was from Aerosmith, one of the judges our
Yeah.
season, his bodyguard Aaron got elbowed directly in his eyeball by Ryan Seacrest and had a gigantic black eye for 3 weeks
Oh, wow.
following that. It's pretty
That's the
funny.
story behind the story that
Yeah.
you hear here. Maybe you've talked about it elsewhere.
Oh yeah.
That's really funny. I just that was fun. I had to bring it up.
I'm glad you
Um,
did. Thank you.
that's my favorite American Idol moment of all time. It's like
Yes.
worlds colliding.
Yes. I still have his
Um,
ripped up T-shirt that he gave me too. So
so yeah, so and by the way, guys, like that's really cool to hear that James, like a musician and a creative of his caliber, has learned how to do all those things. Because you either have to, if you're trying to do uh, the business of music,
mhm.
um, you do have to learn a lot of different parts to it. And before you ever delegate them to someone else, I'm a big fan of learning it yourself. And so that way, if you do, make it further and you have the opportunity to bring more people on to help you, you've kind of done it, so you can explain it really well to the next person. And the reality is you can do a lot on your own these days. There's people making albums in their, in their basements, in their bedrooms. The playing field has really leveled when it comes to production and even music video production and
Mhm.
the whole suite of things. And it's also easier than ever before to learn a lot of these skills, without having to go to a trade school or to a music school, and I'm telling you that as someone who, was steeped in classical concert piano and musicology and research, overseas and stuff. So it's just the world's changed a lot. For me, I think very similar to James in that no 2 days are the same. I'm definitely doing a lot more like culture building and team building and administrative kind of work, and like um, kind of also managing people these days, as opposed to like doing my default mode is like check off all the tasks and go through my to-do list really fast, but I'm having to learn a lot about um, getting people in the right seats and building a team for some of the projects we do. And there's some areas I feel like my wife and I have done really well, and others that I'm still learning, because a lot of that was new to me. But some of the initiatives I'm more excited about are, we did a tour through Croatia, that I just posted a video on YouTube about, and so you can see some of the outreach we do in schools and different areas over there. We do a bigger trip like that once in a while. That's not like my monthly rhythm, um, but it's a cool one that I'm proud of. So a lot of planning for stuff like that, different events we do around the U.S. There's a lot of logistics involved. We started something recently called Song Site, which I know Matt, who's on here, knows about, and we've talked about it. Um, but have a lot of, I don't know if we have any alumni from Songsite that made it on here, but it's a mentoring retreat for blind musicians. And so as I've moved into more the nonprofit space and kind of moving from the music business and now more into some of this outreach, we realize there's a big opportunity to empower blind musicians to find their voice, to realize they have a platform that no one else has, because we don't see some of the distractions that maybe a sighted person sees. And so we're able to bring people together in a unique way. And so there's a lot going on with Songsite right now, as far as retreats and concerts and alumni gatherings and stuff. So I'm kind of in this phase where I'm learning a lot about organizational structure, if I'm being honest with you, because I didn't grow up as a business guy.
No, I think that that's really interesting. And it kind of leads into the next question for both of you is with your disability and when you collaborate with those who have disabilities, what accommodations, tools, or supports have you used or have seen that are helping? to with that, with rehearsing, from performing to touring, or things that you've seen since you've been a part of, like you both talked about, from your time on American Idol now, what advancements have you seen, and what are some tools that maybe you each use in your own work? You want to start, Scott?
Sure, I can start real quick. I mean, for me, I'll just tell you the obvious one, and I don't know that this applies to everyone here, but some people here it will. But Uber was not a thing. I mean, maybe it was. I don't think it was a company. I'd have to check. It was like right around that time, maybe when they launched. Don't quote me, but that was not a thing happening. And Uber has revolutionized my world. Things like Uber Eats, Instacart, just from a personal standpoint. Also being able to bless others with that, like we had a couple of people on our team that were down sick recently, and I can't like go drive them a meal, you know what I mean? but but I can send one with Uber Eats. So I feel like there's, in the whole driverless car thing, I've been in some Waymos and things. It's just a very interesting time as a blind person, to be able to have access to stuff like that. And then when it comes to collaborating, I think software is where my mind goes. I want to let you answer, James, too. But from my perspective, I think, it's always kind of like a battle to keep on the radar of the software engineers, as the blind community saying, hey, this update just broke this accessibility, for this application or whatever. But I feel like it's a better time in history than ever before. Like if you have to be blind, it's a great time to be blind because there is a big blind community, there's a big disability community, even bigger, and the developers are paying attention to things like, how we might need to take in information in a different way or provide information in a different way. And so on a lot of these platforms that allow for group collaboration, and you can find that in Pro Tools for music, but you can find it in something like Asana for, teamwork and task management. They're very accessible these days. In fact, Pro Tools, as a digital audio workstation in the studio, is more accessible than ever before. Every once in a while, there's a little bug that crops up, but there's a whole bunch of people working on that. And if anyone's interested in that from a blind perspective, there's a great community you can get involved with.
Awesome. Thanks, Scott. James?
I don't know if I necessarily have anything to add. I think what Scott said, it definitely sums it up as far as having those different software platforms that are make collaboration much more simple. Um, for my particular disabilities, mine are more like I feel like I have just more personal dilemmas. And for me, like I can think back on growing up as a creative with high functioning autism and Tourette's, and kind of the Asperger's of it all, of not being able to necessarily understand people's social cues and those sorts of things. But I had great people in my life, great teachers, great community support. One in particular was a woman named Robin Aronson, and she was a theater director. And she kind of noticed that with me, and she kind of helped me along and noticed, okay, well, when you're playing a character, you don't have necessarily, you're not portraying that character. It was this interesting psychological thing, which I don't know if it works for everybody, but when you're playing a character, your character doesn't have your disabilities, do they? I was like, no, I guess I never thought about that. No, I guess not. And so when you portray that character and you get so deeply invested in portraying that character, as I guess she noticed that I did, um, I kind of stopped showing signs of my Tourette's, and I kind of acted differently, looked differently, and presented differently, which was really interesting. So it's basically like teaching me how to be on. Like if I have to be on, and I have to be so on that I have to like not be distracted and allow my nervous system to get all discombobulated, then it is possible. I can turn it on, and I guess I still kind of use that when I have to. But I kind of been able to be more comfortable with just being James as I am. And if something comes across funny, I'll try to re-explain myself if I have the opportunity. And if I'm making funny faces and puffing up my cheeks and squinting and whistling and doing weird things, and somebody asks, I'll be like, "Oh, I got Tourette's." They're like, "Oh, cool, right on."
I think that is so interesting and informative because I think being able to stand, like you said, almost stand in your truth and just like if something like that does happen, rather than try to, disguise it or whatever that might look like, just explaining it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I would love to hear, I'm sure in situations like that, I would imagine you're usually met with kindness and understanding,
Oh yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
Usually, it wasn't always that way. Yeah, wasn't always
Yeah.
that way. Not
Yeah.
everyone is so kind, but I don't hang out in unkind circles any longer.
Well, I think that's really important. Like, and Scott, like you were saying, just to, I think when you start surrounding yourself with people that align with, your goals and your missions and all of that, that is really great. Okay. So, kind of staying on that topic, um, what additional changes or accommodations do you think that the music industry needs to better support musicians with disabilities, whether it's in venues, recording, touring, opportunities? Is there somewhere that, of course, we're always striving to get better, that you were like, if I had a magic wand, I could do this and bippity boppity boo, and I could do this. What changes would you love to make? We'll start with James. We'll go.
I would just love to, if I could bibbity bobbity boop anything, would just be like general kindness and like just put everyone in a stoked mood. You know, most of the time, like for the venues that I kind of play, I mean, a lot of places people are generally friendly. It hasn't, it depends on what, if you're going to play a sold out, cover band show that night, your chances are you're at a venue where, you've seen all those people before and you worked with them before, and you just be generally nice. And most of the time it's totally good. I mean, I work for great people that know who I am and respect who I am, and there's, if any questions need to be answered or any answers need to be questioned, they know that it's a safe place to do so with me. I think that's really it for me. It's just, working for good people and being a good person, at when it comes to time to work.
Yeah, absolutely. Scott, what would your magic wand be?
Well, that's a really good answer, James. I'm going to take this in a little bit of a surprising direction, maybe, but I think it would be, and I want this to be an encouragement to maybe the people on here who are thinking about a career in music, right? I just am going to throw out there the music industry, the music business is very young in terms of history, right? And
Mm-hmm.
if you go back just a few hundred years, I mean, music was really a patron thing, like I'm just being silly here, but like, you're a composer, you move into a castle and the king pays you to write beautiful music, right? Or, you know, it's it was not made into a commodity which can be, in sold in the marketplace until very recently is what I'm saying. And so the music business has also undergone a lot of turmoil over the past years. And so I would encourage everyone to check out, to just rethink, what your goal is and what you're trying to do. Because I feel like in my world, and I've kind of had one foot in mainstream music, I've just not, not a ton of things, but I've been able to share the stage with a lot of interesting mainstream acts, but then also a lot of Christian acts. And so I've had one foot kind of in both areas for a long time. And that's before we kind of left the music business a little bit and, doing more what we do now, um, in the nonprofit space. But I think that people feel like they have to insert the typical, record label, publishing company, whatever, in between the 2 points, which is writing great art or making great art and a changed life on the other side. that's what we're trying to do with art, right? Maybe not everyone, but I think that's we all know that art has the power to really impact society, right? And to bring about change in our world.
Mm-hmm.
But so many young people today are trying to put a record label in between that. And if they don't get the record label, then their art just sits there and they think it can't change lives. Um, I would look to things like Patreon, which, we don't use, but if I was trying to compete in the music business still, I would probably use that in a heartbeat, some kind of system where people can pay you before you make the art. The people who believe in you can actually say, we're going to fund the creation of art. And there are people that would love to help you do that. In our case, we've been really blessed to have people send us out as musical missionaries all over the world. And we share that common goal of changed lives, go into refugees and seeing them find hope, or going into public schools where students are really struggling and sharing hope with those students. And it's that common vision that has really rallied people to come alongside us in the work we do, to say, here, we're going to send you financially, go do the work. I feel like the music business is still stuck in, do the work, and then if enough people like it, oh, we'll compensate you a little bit. But so much of it is really tricky right now, with some of the songwriting royalties changing and all these things in flux and being negotiated. And there's also been a lot of change in how music and creative content is valued over the years. So I'm just encouraging anyone at the beginning of that journey that, the way people have done it the last 20 years in the music industry is not the only way to do it. And sometimes thinking outside the box, for profit, nonprofit, is it a business? Is it a ministry? Like, you got to answer all those questions and figure out, what is your end goal? And maybe the traditional music business model isn't the best way to get there. Maybe it is. You can still do it that way, but there's other ways to touch people.
No, that is really great. And I think that kind of leads me into another question, which is speaking to a young person with disabilities and they tell you that their dream is to have a career in music like yours. What advice would you give them? Which I know you kind of just started answering that, Scott. So I'd love for you to kind of continue that. And even, we've talked a lot in this conversation about kind of where we are now within, the world. And I'm sure it looked a little bit different when you all were on your American Idol seasons. But if, looking at now with what is happening, what would kind of some of your advice be moving forward in that? We'll start with Scott and then we'll pass it to James.
Well, I'll give a short answer, and then James, you
Hmm.
can jump in. But
You got
I
it.
would just say, I would reiterate what I said. Like, don't think that you need to wait for the traditional record deal or this or that. Just find a way, find people that share your vision, and ask them to help you in doing what it is you feel called to do. There might be a different path there. Um, no matter how you end up, there are more options now than ever before. And then I would just say, like, if you're making art, don't be afraid to share it, because I was the kid that put out my first CD when I was 11 years old, and you do not want to hear that one now. Um, but I did that in spite of a lot of people, over the years would say, make sure you're ready, make sure your songs are great before you give that first impression. I kind of push back against that, and just, you learn by doing, and you learn by sharing, experiments that you're working on. And so I would just not be afraid to be vulnerable with people. In fact, Alan Walker, one of the top EDM guys, has had at least one number one song in the world over the years. But I think he did that. He asked people online, like, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing right? And he discovered how to learn from the ground up, and then get to where he is by asking people and just being vulnerable. And I don't think he was afraid to put something subpar out there.
Yeah, piggybacking off of that, I mean, it's kind of like what I started with earlier. If there's something you want to do, there's no reason not to try to do it. There's there might be things in your way, statistically, um, or your disability or society and expectations or any of that. Like I wanted to a way to record songs, and I have an iPhone. You can get GarageBand for your phone. It used to come with phones. It's like $10, and you could tap a bunch of things and figure out how to use it. You can record vocals. You can record an entire song. You can record a demo. You can record it. You can upload it onto CD Baby, all from your phone. You can upload it to DistroKid, all on your phone. You can like literally do everything from your phone. You can write the song, record the song, upload it to iTunes and Spotify and Apple Music and Google Play and everything, and record the music video, edit the music video, upload it to your YouTube. You have like the biggest multimedia tool available to you in your pocket. I didn't know how to do a recording session. I didn't know how to use Photoshop. I haven't taken a single class for any of these things. I've just have gotten the programs and have clicked and figured out what it does. Clicked and clicked and clicked, and oh no, I just erased everything. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, this is real bad. Okay, now time to look it up. And look up how to not do that. Um, there's if I had a kid come up to me, especially like they say like, "Oh, what would you say to your younger self when you're a kid?" Um, I'd want to say something really ominous to myself because I believed in magic and I still believe in magic. Um, because magic is real. It's all around you. It's all around you. And I I I firmly believe in the law of attraction. And if you want something enough and you pray for it and you live in it like you have it, and you live in that gratitude as if it's already yours, as if you've already accomplished that, and you live in that gratitude for the people that helped you, you live in that gratitude for the opportunities that have come, you look for that gratitude of everything that came through your way or came out of your way in order for you to obtain that dream, that thing that you want. I firmly, firmly believe that that is the power of positivity and the law of attraction, the power of prayer, however you call it. It's all the same thing, and it all gets you to that thing that you want. If you believe in it enough, if you dream hard enough, and you live, you know, purposeful enough, that you can really make it happen. And you'd have to also, I heard this a long time ago, you have to not be afraid to suck, because you're gonna start and it's gonna suck. The chances are it's probably not gonna be very good when you start, and but you can hear something in it. You can hear you can hear your love for it. You can hear like that you want to do it. And there's a lot of people that are really, really good in this day and age, and they suck. There's a lot of people at the top that suck. You take all their tools away and all their exciting little things and their trinkets and their sounds and their programs and everything. You strip away the makeup and the clothing and the stage clothes and the glitz and the glamour and the budget and the record industry and everything, and all the people with good ideas, and they just suck. So if they suck, if they suck and they can do it, we can do it with talent and a dream.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think both of you had such a great message of not giving up and continuing to try and continuing to learn. And I also think a lot of times, as humans, we have to remember that we have to keep trying. Like you said, the first time you do something, you're never good at it. What would that be if that was life? If like a baby just sat up and started walking, like we have to, when we're younger, I feel like we're so like, babies are like, oh, they just keep going and keep trying. And as we age, we start to like lose that sometimes. We're like, well, I tried it one time and it didn't work, but we have to continue to try that. So I think both of your messages are so fabulous. I have another question that says, what support do you wish you had been given in your early teen years to accomplish your goals? Were your parents supportive of you in this journey? And what calms you when you're in the spotlight if you get nervous? So it's kind of like three questions.
Yeah, I am definitely all about my mom and how she was growing up. Um, she's crazy now, but definitely to where. So you all have that to look forward to. Um,
Mm.
but uh, when my mom found out that, because my mom was single mom, three kids, I was the youngest. Um, recovering addict, and then suddenly your youngest that you weren't expecting has all these diagnosed obstacles, as I like to call them, because we can overcome. You know, um, this isn't. It's like putting a boot on a car. You can still drive it, but you gotta get the boot off. Um, Tire change. But I like to look at what I have as obstacles, because you gotta learn to live with them. And I was given a lot of medication as a child, and at a certain age, I think 15 or 16, I took a good hard look at myself in the mirror and wanted to know if this is all so awful, um, and unlivable without being medicated. Let me experience it. I want to know what I'm medicating off of, and away from. So I stopped taking my medications, all of them, cold turkey, and I got to know James Durbin real fast. Uh, and the amazing thing is just that there was so much support from people around me, of people that I always wanted to sing. I always wanted to perform. I lost
Mm.
myself, or I found truly myself when I was on stage, when I was getting to show people that I wasn't just a statistic, that I wasn't just a name on a neurologist's clipboard. And here's another check for the autism box. Here's another check for the Tourette's and the ADHD and everything. And here's another uh, uh, prescription. You know, and it it was really really difficult. I can't lie about that. Um, but I'm just so grateful for the people that saw something in me and saw the want that I had, and how deeply I wanted to be a part of something, contribute to something creatively, and perform, and act, and sing, and not be just a ham, but be the whole pig. I wanted to be the whole pig. Um, and I still get to do that, and to the point of like getting nervous. What do you do if you get nervous? Like, I still get nervous every time I get on stage. Every time I have to talk about myself. Like right now, I'm nervous because I say stupid things when I talk, and I just. But the nerves let me know that I'm still alive, and that I'm still me. I'm still myself. It hasn't become so formulaic that even if I'm about to sing in front of 15 people, it's the same nerves. If I'm about to sing in front of 500 people, it's the same nerves. 5,000 people, same nerves. 50,000 people, you guessed it, it's the same nerves. Um, I just, it's like excitement and reminding myself that I still have that, that little dreamer inside of me. I found some old artwork from when I was like 5 or 6 years old the other day, and and it's got a little drawing that I drew in like first grade, maybe first or second grade, and that's how old you are in first or second. Um, and it said, "When I grow up, I want to sing rock and roll." And looking at
Mm.
that, and I had no idea. I just happened to write it on a piece of paper and draw a little picture, and I don't remember that kid, but he remembers me, and maybe he knew. Maybe young me knew at that point. There's that magic again. But yeah, I just believe in yourself. It's what Scott said. It's when how you used to be, and I'm still very much a part of that. Of if you don't believe in yourself, who else is going to believe in you? Yeah, you have to. It begins with you. It begins in your own head. The only person standing in your way is you. Um,
And I think it's not to interrupt you, James. It's really cool how
Please.
you shared earlier that someone believed in you before you believed in yourself, or maybe you already did believe in yourself, but someone, came alongside and recognized that in you. And so I think we've all had that. Anyone that's successful can probably point back to someone, right, that
Hmm.
believed in them before they believed in themselves.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, she may have seen she believed in me. She saw that I believed in me, but then she saw things that I had really trouble a lot of trouble with making eye contact, maintaining eye contact, just giving people my presence when they're speaking and connecting with people on a one-to-one basis. And she really helped me with a lot of like social cues and just being able to speak in complete sentences and finish a sentence, or get to the point,
Wow.
which still takes me some time. My wife gets upset with me, but yeah, just there's so many good people out there, and there's so much good help, and there's so many different pockets of music or culture, whatever it is that you want to create, that you want to present, that you want to make more of. Like, there is an audience, there is a community for you, and that community, some of it looks like you, some of it and sees the world the way you do and lives in the world that you live in. And some people don't. Some people are like, you're like, you don't look like you'd be interested in what I do, and yet they are. And you just can't. Much like us, we can't be judged. You know, our books can't be judged by their covers. It's you just never know what's going to affect somebody else. So if you want to create, just create the thing, and if you build it, they will come.
Yeah. Scott, I know James, you kind of just talked about it. We have more questions, but another one that kind of goes into that was about mentorship. Jen, who's our executive director, is on the call, and she would love to know about mentorship that you've had and maybe how you found your mentor, or kind of that journey. And James kind of answered that right there. So I'd love to hear about Scott, about, if you've had anyone in your life that's kind of mentored you and kind of how that came about.
Yeah, great question. And shout out to Jessica Dale. I know you're on here. She commented she's coming in April. That means to Song Site. So we can't wait to see you, Jessica, at the Song Site Music Mentoring Retreat for the Blind. And I guess that kind of ties into mentorship too. I would say, that's why I'm so excited like about things like that, is because being able to mentor others after being mentored is really special. Like you kind of um yeah, I didn't have a ton of opportunity for that until recently, or maybe I just didn't start taking it seriously until recently. But being able to pass that on is really special. And to our kids first and foremost. You got kids, James, and same
Mhm.
thing. That's most important, I think. And then there's other people that come into your path that you're able to offer something to. And I would probably say it's never, you're never too young to start mentoring someone if you have, a good head on your shoulders. Like you're more of an encouragement than to the people around you. So don't ever let yourself take your own words lightly. Um, because it's exactly what someone else might need in that moment. People are paying attention to you, so you have an opportunity to mentor even without really doing it formally,
Mhm.
every day of your life, I believe. I think for me, I was homeschooled, so my parents, big part of it. I had teachers, I had music teachers. There was one guy, it's kind of funny. Uh, he was a songwriter for Disney, and he's still around today doing stuff for uh trying to think who I mean, he works with all the companies based out in LA, DreamWorks and different things. But he was kind of my lyricist mentor. So this might be a funny story that sticks with you, but I was a pianist growing up, and so I knew nothing about writing lyrics. And I got this audio message from Dave Canoin, who's Song Wizard Records. Dave Canoin, he wrote for the Muppets also with Jim Henson and that stuff. But he goes, Scott, your music is great. Now here's my advice to you. And he's not a Christian, by the way, to my knowledge. He goes, I think you need to you need to pray for a lyricist,
Hmm.
which is a lyric writer, because I wasn't cutting it. But then he kind of like, I was kind of like, Dave, I want to learn to write lyrics. And so, years later, he's like, I don't know how you did it. You sound better. You writing lyrics, you made it somehow. But the biggest thing he told me was about prosody. And this is something I try to usually pass on to all of our song site, people if we're doing songwriting on a particular day. But for any songwriters in here, budding songwriters, I'm sure you could teach the same concept, James, but prosody is making sure the accented syllables of a word, how you would say it in speech, fall on the same accented syllables in the music. And I'm not going to demonstrate it right now and go down a rabbit hole, but it was just little moments like that. Um, you can look it up, prosody in lyric writing. But moments like that where people like took the time to send me messages or to correspond with me, letters back and forth. I don't know why, but like that moment sticks with me. There's other little moments that stick with me. And it's sometimes just those little nuggets that someone will share that open up a whole door. And so that's why I say, like, anyone on this call, you might be already influencing people around you in a way you don't realize. Words are powerful.
Very cool. Okay, so Jessica asked first, James, can you provide more information about the items that you spoke about regarding writing and uploading music?
Yeah, so I've used well, every iMac or Macintosh, depending on how far back we're going, but most Mac computers have programs called GarageBand or Logic, and those are Mac's kind of starter course music recording programs. You can set them on easy function. They also have iOS apps for both of those, I believe. And the other program that I use is called CD Baby, but that's for uploading your music to and making sure that it gets out to all of the various streaming and download platforms. And I think it's membership is free, and then to upload each individual song, if you do a single, it's $9.99. If you do, and it's not a subscription based program like there's other ones. There's one called DistroKid that is a subscription based program, and I think your music stays up there as long as you keep subscribing to it, which is, I don't know. I know people that use it. I don't use it, but I've always used CD Baby, and they've been great for us. And they collect all of your royalties and everything that you need. And then if you want to record or release anything longer than a single, which is just one song, would be an EP or a full length album. And I think that starts at like $15. So it's super great, gets all your stuff up there. They create a YouTube channel for your music, like a official artist channel that you can link all of your channels together. And it's everything is so, when you look at everything, um, right away, it's like, wow, this is a lot to take in. And each individual thing, there is a lot that you can get into, but there's also baby steps. It's just kind of like uh, having a disability. There's a quick, Cliff Notes is a thing we used to have, but there's a quick, let's say, like if you Google something, there's the AI overview. So there's your AI overview, and then you can get in depth and actually, get into something that somebody has spent their life mastering. Um, yeah, there's a lot of things. I also use Photoshop and make my own merchandise designs. I upload those to a drop shipping website called Threadless. Um, uh, there's so many different drop shipping sites where you can upload your artwork onto t-shirts or hats or just a general apparel and set your own price point, and then you can sell them. And they only print what is purchased. So when somebody goes and buys a t-shirt, they pull that shirt, they upload the design, and then they pay for the shirt and the design and the printing and everything, and then they'll just send you, $5 of the difference in the price for the cost versus what you get. So there's so many different tools and things that will just sit there, and they'll bring in money, or people will enjoy them and use them and do what they do, and you don't necessarily have to worry about it or think about it.
No, that's awesome. So this next
Mm.
one is for Scott. Jessica asked about apps that are accessible with screen readers, but then Krista also asked, and I think it'll answer both questions. She said, for Scott, I'm a teacher of children with visual impairment. I have a really great 19-year-old student who is blind. She has always been musically inclined, but has just taken off the last 3 years since being shown how to use GarageBand on the iPad. She creates music, layering one instrument over another, sings and saves her files. I'm wondering if you have any iOS apps that use or recommend to somebody else who is blind that is accessible with voiceover. Her long-term goal is to get a job performing songs at nursing homes, so I'd love to find more apps that could support her long-term goals and add more creativity and leisure in her life.
Well, those are very broad. Well, the second one, Krista, is very specific, but in a sense, the questions are very broad. And if you want to type in, maybe Emily, keep an eye out for the, well, I know you are, but if either of you want to like clarify as I'm starting to answer this, feel free, and then I can zero in a little bit more. But um, there's so many apps that are more or less accessible. Ironically, unless this has changed in the last 2 years, I know how Photoshop works, James, and yet and I won't go into my whole story. I used to have a little sliver of vision, kind of like looking through a pinhole
Mm-hmm.
at the world. So I know what colors look like and things like that, but it really wasn't usable for travel and things like that. But I could see like the size of a mouse cursor on the computer screen way back. Now it's just no vision. But so there was a time when I could slowly like use Photoshop or Premiere, which is the video portion of the Adobe suite. Ironically, Adobe is not super accessible for the blind. The suite of Google stuff is not generally known in the blind community to be accessible. A lot of us have had a lot of trouble with Google Sheets in particular. Google Docs it's clunky for us, but it's more doable. Google Docs is kind of a nightmare for the blind. I mean, maybe someone disagrees with me, but I've read a lot of things, and for me, I know it's been tough too. The Apple stuff is generally very accessible, and so I was on Windows for a long time, and then you know, my studio is Mac, and I eventually switched everything over to Mac because I have an iPhone, and I thought, how great would it be if everything, integrated together? And so
Mm-hmm.
generally all the Apple products are very accessible on laptop or the phone or the iPhone, and that goes for pages, numbers, whatever their I forget what their presenter thing is like PowerPoint. But as far as music stuff, I think anything that's in the Apple ecosystem, like GarageBand. I don't know if there's a Logic app on the iPhone. Maybe James knows. But that would be, you know, Apple's. Yeah, okay. So you're looking for, yeah. I think Krista, like GarageBand is a great that you don't really need anything else unless she's trying to do something musically that GarageBand is clunky with. And so, but there's so much. I mean, I met an artist one time who made incredible music just using GarageBand, and it was like this indie kind of emo, thing. But he was pushing GarageBand to its limit. Yes, and Keynote is the equivalent of PowerPoint. Thanks, Jessica. So I would just stick with GarageBand and I would focus on what James and I are kind of both saying is get it out to the world, you know? So maybe like if she's happy with it, if you think it's good, throw it up on CD Baby or one of the other sites, DistroKid, TuneCore,
Mhm.
and see what happens. And then you just, print out a little QR code on a business card and hand it out to people. Be like, hey, she, made this music. Check it out. You want to connect people with the music, but first you have to get it out there. So if she's running into, some kind of blockage with GarageBand, again, without knowing what she's trying to do musically, it's kind of one half a dozen of one, or the other, whatever that phrase is. But when she runs into a brick wall, Logic is another program that would kind of be the next step. I use Pro Tools, but again, like you don't need to go super deep unless you're running into a blockade with GarageBand.
Mhm.
Is that fair, James? Would you
Yeah,
agree?
yeah, I definitely think so. There is a iOS version of Logic for your phone. It's called Logic Remote. I'm not familiar with it, but it looks like it's pretty similar to the way that GarageBand operates. There's probably some sort of way. There's probably some sort of way with GarageBand too, because there is a desktop version of GarageBand that can get more in depth. But I think that Apple probably switched over. Don't quote me on this, but they probably switched over from updating GarageBand as much to updating Logic more so. And it's a really similar interface as far as I remember. I haven't been on GarageBand in a long time, but I use Logic almost every day. And even still, I know world-renowned producers that use Logic as opposed to using Pro Tools and swear by it. So it's just kind of it's all kind of what works for you. I know people that use things that nobody uses, and it pisses everyone off, but it works for them and they do it well. So
Yeah.
No, that's really helpful. And then Jessica put in the chat, has anyone heard of Dot Card? Someone told me about it recently and it gives options for tapping it to your phone or scanning a QR code. Has anyone heard? I have not heard of that.
mm-mm, not me.
For me,
I'm
maybe.
not familiar with that, but I'd
Oh,
like to
I know what
know.
it is. Oh, it's like I did see one of these. It's like a business card.
Oh yeah, yeah, I
And
saw
if
that.
you tap
You
your
just tap it.
phone, right? Is that what,
Yeah.
Jessica? I think that's, I just Googled it on the other side. I was
Oh,
at an event recently where they had one of those. It was like, they were like, tap your phone here. And when I tapped it, all the information just came up on my phone, but you can customize it. So that's actually a really cool idea. With that.
hmm.
That's really neat, Jessica. Yeah. So I'm sure you could customize it. You could probably put, like you had said, if you had your music and if you saw someone, if you were at an event or something, I think that's really neat. That's cool. Let's see.
Yeah, that's very cool. In fact, I'm going to look that up. So what I would say is as anyone's evaluating, we want the least friction possible, right? Between like, the least amount of steps that someone has to take
Mm,
before they hear your music or encounter your story. And so the question would be who has adopted it, natively so far? Because for a while, QR codes were a lot easier on iPhone than on Android, or maybe it was the opposite. I don't know, but it takes time for these new technologies to kind of be fully integrated
mm,
into, the Android side and the iOS side and whatever else there is. So that would be something to look up is like, if I do invest the money and do this the tap card, do people have to install an app before it works for them, or does everyone on the iPhone already have the ability to tap it? Does everyone on Android already have the ability? And I'm just kind of walking you through my thought process so that you can think creatively, when it comes to that. So Jessica says no app needed. Is that on both sides? So it's just something to think about.
Yeah, that is really cool. Let's see, is there anyone else have any other questions? Maybe they want to unmute so they can talk. Yes, Carson.
There's so much music out there that it's even hard for me to get to press play, especially you with the metal mouse. It that's something I want to experience. So, for people with disabilities, especially those like myself, how did you get your music noticed? And what is one piece of advice that you would give young artists with disabilities like myself who wants some people like myself to hear some of your work?
I got my stuff mostly heard from being on American Idol, I'd say. I mean, it's kind of an unfair advantage that Scott and I have of going on these shows and getting this platform, and kind of all these people suddenly knowing who you are and having a attachment to you. The other thing that I would say in place of that is that we have things like um, Instagram Live and YouTube Live and TikToks, and you have a huge opportunity to create a community online with people like you, and it's free. The thing with American Idol is it cost us our souls. It we had nothing to lose and everything to gain by this experience and not knowing what would happen, and some of us had I know friends that were on American Idol that think that they did sell their soul and that they had to rebuild everything all over from the ground up and lost all the respect they had get whatever. But there's so many tools. Again, it goes back to the biggest tool in your pocket that happens to make phone calls. Your phone is hardly a phone. Your phone is a multimedia um, tool that can be used for anything, for good or evil. And you can join a Reddit group of people that have similar interests, similar musical interests to yours, or similar disabilities as yours. There's so many ways to connect if you want to connect with people that are like you or that like the same thing you like or the kind of music that you're making. You can find a community for all of these different things online for free, which is, I think that's the biggest thing. When I was on American Idol, we had Twitter. YouTube was just like chipmunks on jet skis, and the evolution of dance. It was so much different. Mr. Beast was counting to 200,000. Um, so there's so many different things that you can utilize these days, and I think it's really like just making it. You got to make the thing. You got to make the music. You got to record the song before you worry about uh how you're going to get it out there. You got to put your best foot forward and use your energy for making the stuff before you figure out how to um get it into everyone's ears.
Yeah, there was another question. What was it, Emily, about rehearsals and creating an inclusive environment in rehearsals and kind of
Yeah,
um,
Sophia
getting
asked,
everyone involved? Am I reading that right?
yes, do you have any advice about how to talk to people about making sure rehearsals or productions are more inclusive?
Yeah, I think I'd love James to weigh in on this one too, but I think I've been learning more recently. I think about probably about 6 years ago, and this is to my detriment. I was much better at managing projects than I was people, and so I think
Hmm.
I and if you're in a business context, maybe this is sometimes this is just the way it is. But I really, at the time, um, I really disliked like incompetency, or just like if I could just throw a wide blanket there, that means something different in every situation. Or like, you know, if things wouldn't be done properly. I had a high standard of excellence, and then I would get frustrated when like I'd send an email out and I would ask three questions and only one of them would be answered, that the kind of little things like that. And I realized like I'm not loving the people that I am trying to do the creative work with, right? And I'd kind of get frustrated inside, and it's like I think since then, about 4 or 5 years ago, I really learned to in every way possible. And especially this is easier for me maybe than others as I'm in kind of a people centric uh mission now, you know. But learning to put people before process. And I think when I apply that to the question here and to the rehearsal space, I think it's an awareness that, you know, we all have different. I mean, I'm blind, so I had no no right to be frustrated at someone for, you know, not like answering as quickly or as clearly as I thought they should, that kind of thing. You know what I mean? I can't drive a car. So I think when it comes to this rehearsal space, it's like, you know, trying to get everyone used to the idea that there is value in every performer. Um, God is a creative God. And so the arts really, I think it's a great reflection of that genesis of humanity. I mean, we are creative beings. There's a reason for that. We're beautiful beings. We're intricate. So I don't think the value should correspond to like, you know, how quickly someone is getting their part done, right? Especially in the disability community. There are benefits to highlighting a person with a disability on stage that you can never quantify. The way that that touches the non-disabled world, the way that it builds bridges between our world, if I can just group us all together in the disabled community and the normal quote unquote community, you can't really put a number on it. You can't quantify it, but people will come up and once in a while you'll hear about how it just wrecked someone, how it brought them to tears or helped them, you know, pay attention to those that are hurting around them more in their neighborhood or, you know, on, just by including everyone. We can't always do it perfectly. We can't do it equal, you know, equity's a little bit of a, you know, it's not always achievable in the way that some might think of it, but equal opportunity and like highlighting every person, making sure no one's left behind in that rehearsal space, in that performance space. Because sometimes it's the talents that you least expect. It's the players on stage that you least expect that could really touch someone's heart. And so I think in rehearsal, it just looks like, you know, taking your time to yeah, and Jessica, so you know, we could talk about leadership too, but I think it just takes time to realize like the first thing you got to get everyone on the same page and realize we all have different talents, we all have different skill levels, but we all have something beautiful to contribute as humans. And that's where it has to start from. And then it doesn't become as much about like, oh, you fit into my box or you don't fit into my box, but it's more like, you know, let's create something beautiful together.
No, I think that that is really awesome. And I know you asked another question, Jessica, about we're going to get ready to wrap up here soon too. So if you have any questions, be sure to put them in. She said, I'm in my church choir. What can my director do to make the experience more accessible to me outside of having someone braille the lyrics and page numbers for music, which they already do? One thing I'm thinking of is how can I tell what he's communicating while directing?
I have a story about that. Do you want to add anything, James, before I
No, please go for it. Absolutely.
I used to play with orchestras, and so I don't know if this might apply, but we worked out a system where the conductor would he would kind of audibly breathe when there was a spot where we all had to come in together or something, you know, because I can't see his hand motions or anything like that, right? So that's one example I can think of. I think you just have to have a conversation with your director. That would be one idea is to like, is there anything audibly that won't really interrupt the music, but maybe he could cue you with a big breath, you know, and kind of going into the next beat. You know, the rest of it kind of depends how you learn music and how you do that. But I think it's having a conversation and thinking critically about how are other ways that he can cue you in the moment, right?
No, that is great. So, as we start to close up this wonderful webinar, I wanted to give a little bit of space for James and Scott if they have any kind of closing thoughts they'd love to leave us with. And I mean, this has been truly great. So, James, is there anything, last minute words of advice you'd love to share with anyone and everyone here?
I think my biggest thing is if you want to do it, do it. There's nothing there. You already. I can look at my life and think that if I look at the cards that I was dealt, that I have so much already standing in my way. How could I accomplish anything else beyond what I already have, right in front of me? And it's just not true. It's, Scott's a living embodiment of that. In my own ways, am a living embodiment of that, and you can also be a living embodiment of that. Like you can, you don't, your destiny is not yet written. You can do things that you've never even thought of, and that are possible. And I knew I wanted to be a singer or a professional wrestler when I grew up. And I am a singer who is friends with professional wrestlers. One of my good friends is a famous professional wrestler named Chris Jericho. And I have him on my ceiling, and I have his toys on my shelf still. And I have him on speed dial on my phone. And I've played his cruise. And I know his wife and his kids. Like, um, I know his darkest secrets, unfortunately. But he, you just never know what life's gonna bring you, and so just be ready for it and be excited for it. And you know, it can. I say wake up with a smile on your face because it could be a great day. And if there's something that you want to create, create it. And if it's no good, you can try again. That's the great thing about art is that it's never truly finished. Even I've recorded songs and released them, and then I've grown up and been like, "Whoa, that was not a good representation of that song. How about we re-record that one?" Or you can just never listen to it again. That works too. There's so much that's possible, especially nowadays, and with everything, all the tools that you have in the palm of your hand or in your back pocket. It's not just there for phone calls and butt dials. You can make everything happen with the phone in your hand. You really can. Um, and most of it for free. All it takes is like Scott said earlier, is not getting distracted. It's also the world's greatest distraction, but also the world's greatest tool. You can use it for good or evil, and so try to
Mm.
do some good with it.
That's really, really well said, James.
Thank you.
There's primarily two ways people are operating these days, you guys, either as a consumer or a creator. And what James just said is be a creator. It's okay to be a consumer sometimes. We all have to, decompress and all of that. But I think if you look at the people who have shaped the world and in big ways and small ways, they're creators, they're not consumers. Instead of playing video games, they're making video games. Instead of just listening to music, they're making music. Instead of just watching, TV for hours on the weekend, they're making films. You know what I mean? So that's a great thing to keep in mind. I don't have anything to add. I just want to say, James, like, thanks for giving us a master class on like music and technology and just making the music, being grateful. So many great threads of what you said there, and this has been really fun to join up on this and share with everyone. I think we should share before we go off. What's your website, James?
Oh, my website needs to be updated. But it is jamesdurbin.com. JamesDurbin.com.
Nice.
I'm all over Instagram mainly. I have a TikTok. I don't really do anything on it, but it's James Durbin official. It's the only one with a blue check, and all my stuff for everything I do, my personal music, my heavy metal music, my pop music, my synthwave album that's coming. my Metal Mouse. I sent Carson the direct links for Metal Mouse, and Tainted Love and Mustache Harbor. Everything, all of the above, is all on my Instagram and on my Facebook too.
And I will be sure to, I want you to share yours as well, Scott, but in your email that follows up, I have both of your websites ready so everyone can be sure to follow along. So, Scott, let us know
Mm.
yours as well.
Yeah, it's scottmacintyre.com, ScottMacIntyre.com, scottmacintyre.com. And then if you want to know more about Songsight, it's songsiteretreat.com, SONGSIGHT retreat.com. And excited for that's coming up in April. The slots are almost filled actually. I think there's like one or two open. So the committee's been working hard.
No, that is so fabulous. And again, from Arts for All, we are so thankful for your time and everyone's energy. We will have one more Career in Arts webinar in March. It is actually with three different museum professionals. So it's going to talk a lot about how they've gotten into the world that they're in. So if you are a visual artist or have any interest of those, they're three very unique individuals. One is an Olympic, works for the Olympic Museum. So right now I was emailing her and she's at the Olympics. I'm like, how cool is that? She's like, yeah, I got to travel with the torch. I'm like, not everyone gets to say that every day. And a children's museum and other museums. So in our other webinars, we've done one, we kicked off the season with two animators that work for Pixar and animation companies. And then we did a teaching artist one for our teaching artists here at Artsville, Florida. They're all going to be on our YouTube. So this one will follow suit there as well. So you're able to go back um, and reference that and share that. And like I mentioned, I will share James and Scott's website information so you can find them and follow along. And be sure to follow along Arts for All Florida as well. And I just appreciate all your time and energy. And Scott and James, we can't say thank you enough for taking time out of your day to really, I know I learned a lot. So I hope everyone else did. And we just want to thank you. And, I think a lot of us are in Florida. So if you're ever in Florida, let us know. We'd love to see you, but we really appreciate your time and energy tonight.
This was awesome. Thanks, you guys. I know I think Matt left, but I was just in Fort Myers, and I'm like, is it close enough? Do I tell the Tampa people? So I probably should have texted everyone, but I'll be back.
Florida's a weird state. It's kind
I'll
of
be back.
everything's kind of far away. Not everything is as
Yeah.
close, but yeah. And
Yeah.
Matt did say he said hello and goodbye. He had to run off his call, but he was happy to be on. So, um, to everyone, thank you so much for this, and we can't wait to continue creating and making all the magic. So thanks, guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks. Have a
Thank
great
you.
night.
Good to see you,
Likewise. Thank you.
James. Take care.
Likewise, Scott. Take care. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thanks again.